Oh, it's almost trade deadline time, 2 weeks from tomorrow. And the reason why we're talking about it today is because we only have 3 p.m. shows remaining until that time. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast here on a Wednesday. I almost said Thursday because the days are just running together.
Turning into me with the days of the week.
It's a Wednesday, and it's the PHLY Sixers podcast with Derek, Kyle, I'm Devon. Bree hanging with us as always as the president of basketball operations. We are live from the Xfinity lounge here, hanging out with you as we are presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment's never ordinary at Bet365. Good to see all of you in the chat. Got D Flyers talking about the snow apocalypse that could be upon us over the weekend. We'll get to that when it's time to get to that. But we have to get into
sneezing in 90 seconds into the show.
That's all right. I wasn't even going to acknowledge it, but you did. So there's that. Bless you. It's a Wawa Wednesday. So we have a big deal for you throughout the show as well. The Stretch, presented by Rothman. We'll discuss that a little bit later also. But first, we do have to talk about the trade deadline that is upon us. The only name that has been traded so far is a big one. Trae Young on the move, as we have talked about with C.J. McCollum. Corey Kispert headed to the Atlanta Hawks. They have already gotten some games in with those teams. So now we focus on where the Sixers are. Right now, after last night's game, they are 23-19, tied for fifth with Orlando and Cleveland. And they have a game up on Miami, who is currently sitting in the ninth place. The Knicks and Raptors with a game and a half up on the Sixers. So I bring that up to start the show off because the Sixers are still firmly in the mix when we talk about that 4 on down. And even when you look at Boston at the number 2 spot, the Sixers are 3 games back of them currently. So if you want to just look at that 42 games in of where they are, that's currently where they sit in the Eastern Conference standing. So you have 40 games remaining. And with the trade deadline upcoming and you still have a decent amount of games at home for you to win.
Derogatory, Devon. They can't win games at home.
Very true.
Why do we even care at this point?
Get on the road then so you can win some more basketball
Go play
games.
In Sacramento or wherever else that's not the Xfinity Mobile Arena, unfortunately.
2-3 record in their last 5, 1-3 at home. It is not great. But if they turn it around over these next 2 this week, they have 3 more next week. And then, of course, that leads right into the trade deadline when they are on the road. With that, we wanted to talk about maybe some candidates. Should they be buyers? Should they be sellers at the trade deadline? We've discussed Kelly Oubre, Andre Drummond, Jared McCain. Do we bring those names up again? And Kyle, as we start off, who's coming in then if they are on their way out as potential pieces to be moved? And we had a few that we wanted to start off with. Kyle has one in particular that he wants to start off with. I have one that the guys don't know about. And we have a few other candidates from wings,
some mystery trade
some bigs. Do we have some guards as well? Send us yours in the chat as we go along. Kyle, let's start off with you. We also have the money ready for the jar for the amount of times that Derek says the tax and the ramp and all kinds of stuff where the money goes into the jar. Kyle, let's start off with you. Should they be buyers? Should they be sellers? Are they playing well enough where they are right now where you want to see them potentially make a move?
So I think the answer is I would like them to be mild to moderate buyers. I don't know that I see a path to a big swing trade, a franchise-altering move, unless there is something that is like a Luka level. You're operating in secret with some old friend of Daryl's, or Bob Myers brought somebody in that's like his old friend, and they're concocting some absolute insane trade, because I don't think where they're at currently, and I don't think with where their long-term trajectory is, that now is the time to say, we're just throwing the kitchen sink at whoever has a big fish to move. And frankly, if I'm looking at the NBA trade landscape in general, I am in the camp of expecting a quiet deadline, in part because
around the entire league,
in part because I think most teams who have real stuff to move are still waiting on the Giannis situation to unfold. And when I say that, I mean they're waiting to see if Giannis is going to demand a trade or not. And it doesn't seem like that's happening this year. So any team that's got a lot of future capital, the motivation to try to win now with Giannis is probably not making big moves. So maybe you see a similar move to the Ja Morant trade for, or not the Ja Morant trade, the Trae Young trade for someone like Ja Morant, where he's a bit of a distressed asset. Teams don't know what to make of him. He's had a couple of high-profile games this year where he looked really good, but given his off-court history, et cetera, no one really knows what to make of him or whether they want to mortgage the future for him. And so with the league, I think probably stagnating a little bit. I don't know that there are a lot of teams that are, so to speak, open for business. And on the Sixers end, they have good enough high-end talent. I think this is about finding the right complementary guys to upgrade the rotation, maybe upgrade even like a starting spot and push another guy to the bench. And so for me, I would like them to buy, mostly because I think if they're selling, it's going to be the quack, ducking the tax type move in favor of the Josh Harris honorary helicopter fuel fund. But it's only a moderate buy. It's only a get a top 8 rotation player in here.
So should we make it rain?
Can I peel some off here?
Is it just
there we go? Helicopter fuel.
No,
sorry,
Devon.
Right I'll pick those up later during a break here. But so that's where I'm at. I want them to buy because I want them to make the team better. I think Joel and Maxey and VJ and Paul in particular have played well enough on the floor to say if you help support these guys, they can hit a pretty high ceiling. But I'm not expecting much more than that. And that's the prism through which this conversation takes place for me, is those are the types of players I'm looking at.
Yeah. My main goal coming out of this trade deadline is to not duck the tax. You can throw another dollar in there. It is because, look, in part, I agree with Kyle. This isn't the year to buy. In large part because you just don't have the matching salary to buy. Like, it's almost impossible to be real buyers with the very limited things you have in trade, which is mostly Kelly and Drummond, maybe Grimes if you can get him to waive the trade kicker, but he's not really going to be a value because he won't have bird rights, yada, yada, yada. You don't have the resources. And by resources, I don't even mean draft picks. Usually a team that is a good team but not quite a contender, you are draft capital poor, not matching salary poor. But the Sixers have the draft picks, but no real way to leverage that into a real impact player. So I want them to not duck the tax. That's my primary goal. In large part, I'm just going to say duck all show. In large part because, one of the players, Kelly, is a useful player. So if you are trading him to lose money, you're going to be a worse playoff team. But two, the message it sends to a guy who's performing at an MVP level in Tyrese, who delayed his extension a year so you can get Paul George, who has evolved more than you could have ever hoped to evolve. If you say, look, yeah, you're great. We think you're one of the best players in the world. Max contract. You've got 2 other max contracts with you. Everything's great, but we got to save some money. It's just a bad look. And they've done this so many times over the Joel Embiid era, including times when Joel Embiid was playing at an MVP level. And look, you weren't exactly selling great players like Matisse Thybulle, but you were making trades for the explicit purpose of saving Josh Harris money. And I'm just sick of it. And I don't care about me or you or the fans. What does that say to Tyrese? Like, I just don't want to go through that again. So don't make your playoff chances worse to save Josh Harris money. That's my number one goal. You're so far out of the repeater tax, that's not a concern. You're sitting here with you're playing like it feels like we're playing with house money right now because Joel Embiid is playing regularly and playing well. Even if you only have a 2 or a 5% chance of that extending throughout the playoffs, don't make your playoff chances worse to save Josh Harris money. That's my number one goal. And quite frankly, this is the easiest bar to clear. As long as they don't do that, I will be happy.
They could literally do nothing.
They could do nothing.
Could just stand pat.
Like, thank you.
Let's keep going with the tax, dumping the tax here as a theme on the show. But I agree with both of the guys, and I definitely agree with the Maxey point where you don't waste this season and you don't want to send that message to your guy. And I also agree with Kyle here where you get to the trade deadline, and you know what they said at the start of the season, training camp, and once the season got underway, of how they felt they were attacking every team is the championship is the goal. Well, now they are here. They are right there, as we said at the top, right in the mix of everything in the Eastern Conference. It is not as much as a lock as it seemed at the beginning of the season with Detroit, New York, Cleveland at the top, with Orlando, Atlanta going on down the line with some of these other teams. It seems like there's open, and if the Sixers get the right matchup in the postseason with the way that they have played, the way they have managed Joel Embiid and Paul George, and they are a little fresher once you get to that time in mid-April and maybe even further, then you have something there. So if they stay put, maybe they're good enough because you just simply have those guys every game for the playoffs. When you have a 7-game series, they're going to have to play, right? Okay. But if you also maybe add a piece that can put you a little bit over the top, that helps you with your rebounding issues, that help you with your point of attack defense that we've seen where there have been problems with this basketball team, and maybe even some of the shooting numbers that you would like to see improve, I would like to see them buy. It may not be a star like Trae Young, but it could be a piece. It could be a player that fits the mold of what we just laid out there by not ducking the tax, but looking at the situation that's right in front of you. And by the way, Joel Embiid has played, and he's 23 games in of the 42 that they've played. He's averaging 24 points, 7 rebounds, a few assists, doing the things that he's doing offensively. We don't know how long this is going to be that way. You don't waste that either because he's not going anywhere. You're not trading him. You don't waste that either. You go after it right now. I personally, as we've talked about the win total at the end of the year for this season, somewhere between 42 and 44. Maybe it's a little bit higher if they get on a run, they get on a roll, and they play consistent basketball, and they find themselves in a really good seed at the end of the year with some favorable matchups to them where it all lays out perfectly for them. You make sure that you do everything and send that message to your franchise player, your 2 or your new one, that you have faith in them, and this is what we're going to do for you because of what you've done for us to get us to this point in the season. So I have maybe 2 candidates that we'll talk about as we go along here with the show. I know Kyle has some. Derek has how he wants to look at things. So I am in the camp of, yes, buy. It's not going to be a superstar, but one that could be a starter as that 5th guy in the starting unit, could be a 6-man.
Yeah, like a Barlow
could be a
type
7.
starter.
Yes, that's the only thing you're replacing in the starting lineup anyway. So it could be that, or it could be a player that's coming off the bench that's giving you some real minutes that helps you win basketball games from now until April, maybe even May, and who knows how far that may go. So I am in the camp of buy.
Yeah, and I think that would be – I can't imagine there are tons of fans out there who are like, yeah, you should make the team worse at the deadline. You should give away. Now, the exception to that is if, for whatever reason, a team out there was willing to say, we'll give you a first-round pick, maybe not a great one, but a first-round pick for like a Kelly Oubre type player. That's one where I would have to say I'm willing to do that because I don't believe in the Sixers as like they're not an inner circle contender. They're like a team that's more on the fringes of that picture. And yes, trading away Kelly would represent a hit to that, would make them worse for sure. But I don't believe in them enough as a contender where I'd be like, I can pass up an opportunity to add more potentially to the future, whether it's a pick this year, maybe a year or 2 down the road, where that's potentially a player or a pick that could be put in a trade where you're adding to the VJ Maxey core down the road. That's where it would get a little bit interesting for me. But if you're moving the guys that they're likely to move, so Oubre, Drummond, those guys are not fetching real value. Kelly's got a better chance too, because I think he's somebody that would play on a lot of different playoff teams and play in a top 6, top 8 type of role. But anymore, we've had conversations about this recently. I feel like even 4 or 5 years ago, it was still common enough that you'd see like a Bojan Bogdanovic level player move for like a real first, like a top 20-ish first round pick at the deadline. I just don't see those trades happening that much anymore. Those trades have turned into, we're going to give you 3 second round picks, or maybe on the high end. Didn't Saddiq Bey go for like 5 second-round picks pre-injury, I believe, in that trade. And so maybe you see trades like that now. But in this CBA environment, teams are hoarding first-round picks as much as they can, save for teams that are desperate. So I don't see a huge value-add trade out there with the stuff that they would probably send outgoing. So in that environment, I'm either holding on to what I got or I'm trying to make little additions that make this team better.
As for obviously content purposes, basketball fan that I am, and just sometimes you want to add to your team in general, selfishly, just make a trade because it's always fun to talk about here on the PHLY Sixers show.
Daryl.
That's right. Do something, Daryl. And with that, when we come back, we'll get to the do something that Kyle has, Derek, myself, all of you in the chat. We see you. We'll talk about yours as well. Any super chats that come on in, we'll discuss those as well. It's the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Wednesday, 2 weeks away from the NBA trade deadline. Buy or sell, and who are your candidates if you're willing to buy? Let's discuss it right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
Guys, you may notice here on the PHLY Sixers show, we wear a lot of hats. Some days you got bedheads. Some days you're rushing around from the practice facility. I need quality hats. I need good-looking hats. So whether you need snapbacks, truckers, fitteds, or beanies, maybe even a T-shirt to go with them, Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style. Here's the best part, guys. They do fully custom jobs. If you're looking for some gear to make your brand stand apart from the crowd, Branded Bills has you covered with the best custom headwear. You're actually seeing, if you're watching on YouTube or Fast or anywhere else, one of our custom hats that we have made at PHLY with Branded Bills. It also sits nice and comfortably on my head. It's adjustable. You can start your order, and their dedicated team will help you create the exact custom apparel you need. They have a partnership with Penn State. It's part of their campus collection and many others as well. So head to brandedbills.com. Use the code BBPHLY for 15% off of your first order. Guys, we all know the feeling. You walk into a jewelry store, you're trying to pick something out for that special someone in your life, but you're in over your head. You're like, what's the difference between all these diamonds? What if they don't like what I think is going to look good on them? It can be a really stressful experience unless you're working with Joe and Michelle at Bucci's Jewelry and Design, which has been such a game changer for me. They make the whole process seamless. From the minute that you walk in, they treat you like family, and there's no pressure, no pushy sales vibe. They just want to listen to you. They want to help you figure out what it is, your partner, your mom, your girlfriend, whoever, your dog, even whoever you want to get beautiful jewelry for. They're going to help you figure out what it is they'll love, and then they're going to design it there custom for you in-house. They've been in the game for 30 plus years, voted Philly's #1 jeweler year after year. Over 1,000 five-star reviews. Speaks for itself. Check them out today at BucciJewelers.com and tell them the guys at PHLY sent you.
Back here on the PHLY Sixers podcast, buy or sell. It's time for the Wawa Big Deal here on the show. The Wawa Wednesday Big Deal. You check out our cups, our mugs here on the table in the morning. When you get up and you're running around, going to work, drop the kids off, whatever you need to do. You forgot your grub? Don't you worry. Wawa has you covered from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. Limited time. Any sizzly, any hot or iced coffee, and a hash brown for $5 from 5 to 11 at Wawa. All right, I'll start off with our Wawa Wednesday Big Deal. Kyle, who's your first candidate here that we talk about?
Okay, so I said the way I'm coming at this is you have to think of who's going to sell. So the team's got to be bad, or at least moderate to bad, depending on if they want to tank. Got to look at a guy who's on a manageable salary, someone who's a switchable player, multi-tool, can play different positions. I think there's an obvious answer. We might even be able to talk to a friend of ours after the show today at DLLS about this exact player. It's Naji Marshall.
There you go.
Someone that we talked about as a potential, I think, free agent acquisition when he was a free agent. Would that have been last summer, 2 summers ago?
2 summers ago.
They all of them blend together. He's having another bad shooting year, which is unfortunate because when he had I think he shot something like 38% his final year in New Orleans, and people were looking at him as a breakthrough. Like he's finally arrived and he's able to put it all together. And I would feel a heck of a lot better if he was still shooting the ball like that. The good news He's a solid positional rebounder. I think he's a good wing playmaker. He's progressed there quite a bit over the years, where he's close to 3 assists a game, and he's someone that is I would put him in the solid decision maker category. Will attack a closeout, hit the right swing pass. I think he is someone that I feel more confident and comfortable with in a playoff environment. If it's like, hey, we're going to dare Naji Marshall to shoot, I think I believe in him more than like a Barlow or a Jabari Walker. I think at his size, he's 6'7". I would call him sturdy for like his frame and his build. He's someone that if you play him and Paul George, him and Kelly Oubre, and then you have VJ in the backcourt, Grimes in the backcourt, whoever it might be, I think you can put together some real good two-way lineups. And because he's only had a $9 million cap hit this year, in theory, you could put together a package that is basically just Drummond and minimums, and you get to that number. And so then you have to talk about what is he worth to Dallas in terms of the picks that you have to send. Can you send a few seconds, and how many seconds would it take for them to say, hey, this is worth it for us. This is the Cooper Flag show now. We have to take a longer view. Let's get some value for him now. And the Sixers get him for 2 playoff runs potentially. But he's someone I think is good enough to potentially start, but doesn't need to. Mm-hmm. And so he's someone that I think is a very good player that either he's a solid bench guy or maybe a low-end starter. He's not going to command a lot of touches and time on the ball, but can be trusted when you give him the ball. I think he's the type of player they should be after at the deadline, and I think there might be an opportunity there because Dallas is in no way, shape, or form competing this year, and so they're probably looking at lots of different trade scenarios heading into that deadline.
Yeah, now it does. Not to be the cap guy, but like you're going to have to send out more salary than you take back because if you take back more salary than you send out, you hard capped at the first apron. They are like $1 million off the top of my head under that first apron, so they're very close. So it would be you'd have to get a little bit creative to do that. But yeah, if you can get for Drummond and spare parts and a little bit of draft equity, like sure, I've liked him for a while. I do think. Because to your point, he shot 38% from three a couple of years ago.
But that is the outlier.
For his career, it's at 30%. That three-point shot has not translated at all. His defense, I think, has taken a little bit of a step back after he moved over to Dallas, but he is still a good defender. Still, I agree with a pretty good decision maker, which on this team would be perfect.
I just want more guys that I trust as basketball players on the team. Yeah, and he fits the bill there.
Agreed.
Should we go to mine next?
Go for
it.
I
like the Naji Marshall.
And I would also say, so as we're talking about how to put together a potential trade package with the money, I wonder, Trendon Watford is a guy that I think we had at least reasonably high expectations for as an end of the rotation, middle of the rotation type player this year that has a team option next year. He's on a small contract. I wonder what sort of value he might have in a trade like this, where maybe Dallas says he's more interesting to us as like kind of a long-term look compared to the Sixers, who are looking for somebody that's like a 1.5 year, 2 playoff runs type of wing, and then see what happens from there. Because I believe Drummond, Watford, Gordon gets you to like 9.2-ish. And that's right at the number you need to be at. Now, you also have to then convert guys because their roster would be at 12 at that point, sending out 3 for 1. And then Dallas has to accommodate that. So there are a lot of things to think about there, but just something to think about.
No, I like that one because we were high on him that summer that he signed that contract with Dallas, and we thought the money was doable for the Sixers at that time. All right, mine, I stay with the wing also, and I went to New Orleans, Naji Marshall's old stomping grounds, and I went with Saddiq on a deal that he signed a 3-year, $20 million deal when he tore his ACL with the Washington Wizards, and right now, since he's been now a year removed from that, 2 years removed, 15 points, close to 6 boards, 2.2 assists. His shooting, it's much better. We've seen him shoot. He's not shooting great with that team right now at 32.3% from 3 on 5 attempts, but we know he can shoot the basketball. The switchability at 6'8" for what he does, the size that he has, and his numbers as far as how much he makes how much he has left on his deal. Also pretty favorable when I let me just go back and look at his money, because it was somewhere around, I think it was like 7 million I had it. So right around 6-7 million for Saddiq Bey. So I looked at him and I thought last year the deal, similar to what Kyle pointed out, that shooting, the lineup that you can run a lot of different lineup constructions with him at the 3, at the 4. You can even go bigger with him playing. If you go 3 with him and maybe he's out there with Paul George, and if Kelly Oubre is still here, they can all be on the floor together. Mm-hmm. When we talk about wings that they need, he was one that I looked at and felt like that would be an interesting one, as you pointed out, Kyle, on another bad team that will look to unload some guys. And with him bouncing back, could they get something for him on the final year of his deal?
Now, I do want to offer one bit of pushback here, and I think it's important. He might be the most Troy Weaver player of all time. Had him in Detroit, was an advisor in Washington when he ended up in Washington. Troy Weaver now in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. Somehow Saddiq Bey ends up in New Orleans. I am not sure that Troy Weaver can be in the NBA and give up Saddiq Bey. So that's one pretty big issue with there. There was another New Orleans guy you brought up that I think we know is available for sure.
Yeah, well, I wanted to get Derek's thoughts on this one first. Bree has all the stats for that one too, but what do you think of Saddiq?
Yeah, I've never been quite as enamored with him. I've just never really fully bought into his defense. But we are talking about trading pretty much spare parts. So, yeah, I'd give it a shot.
Yeah, so I was just making sure I did have the numbers right as we talk through it all here.
Yeah, Saddiq is on a 3 for 19. He's making 6.1 this year and 6.4 next year.
So what's that trade, Derek?
That's Andre and a minimum. And gets you over that.
Andre and Justin Edwards get you over that?
Oh, not Justin.
Oh, sorry. Can't do that.
By the way, I don't know if you guys talked about him briefly
last night. Yeah, briefly. Yeah.
How the mighty have fallen. We'll put it that way.
But
tough season for him.
But yeah, I like Saddiq obviously more than you, but with the frame, the shooting that could be there, playing with Maxey, Joel, get some really good looks out there on the floor. I thought that might be helpful as a wing. And with the super chat, as we talk about this with the deadline, Davon says we need 2 players, a 4, a 5 that can solve Joel's deficiencies and small ball lineups, and a 3-4 that can round out the shooting, the defense on the wing. The issue I have is 3 roster spots being wasted with obviously the empty one, and then you have Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon on their spots that they have on the roster.
So here's the thing. I don't disagree with Schoolboy's point. A 4-5 who can shoot, and a 3-4 that can shoot and defend are 2 of the most valuable archetypes in basketball. Like those are not guys that you just like go to the deadline store and it's like I pull a nice 4-5 defender shooter off the rack and say, "Oh, nice, we have one of those now." Like those guys are tough to find. In a lot of cases, it's going to be a shooter who you don't trust at all, like an offense-heavy front court player, or it's going to be someone in the rim protection, shot blocking, rim running mold, which I do think we have someone we want to bring up there, Devon, in New Orleans. And then the 3-4 who can shoot and defend, it's like, yeah, I would like as many of those guys on the roster as I can get, quite frankly. But that's why we talk about the Naji Marshalls, the Saddiq Beys, who are maybe if you squint, they look like shooters, and maybe in better offensive environments, they look like shooters. Like I think with a real point guard or a real offensive ecosystem, either of those guys could shoot a little bit better. And I think the way that you see that, right, is that PJ Washington never shot the ball that well for Charlotte. He goes to Dallas and he plays with Luka, and he goes crazy during that playoff run that helps establish him as, more of a serious player in the eyes of fans, media, whoever.
What happened after that playoff run, Kyle?
I don't know. What did they do with that Luka guy? I can't remember. So
yeah,
I think it's tough. Like there are guys out there, but there are not a lot of them. And are you willing to pay a high sticker price for them is the question.
Davon with 2 more super chats. One says luxury tax equals sell. Bye-bye Kelly and Drummond. That's
my one goal.
That's
is
the
for
one
that
goal.
not to be a reality.
Exactly. And the final one just added to the conversation because I saw X-Man bring this name up. We've talked about this name in the past. And Jalen Smith from Chicago, while we didn't put him on our list, Jalen Smith has been in trade rumors all year, schoolboy, Davon says. And Jalen Smith is averaging right around 10 points a game for Chicago, shooting 35% from three. We know he's a big man at that 4, can play some 5. And would you have any interest there with the money that he makes, which I believe is 9.4 next year?
It's a tougher number to get to, but also illustrates the point. He's shooting well for him. He's a career 33.5% shooter. So, like, you get to a playoff series. If the idea is you're going to play him next to Joel, most good teams are going to say, I'm sagging off of him and I'm letting him shoot threes. Like, maybe he wins you a game, but over the course of 7 games or 6, however long a series would last, they would take the approach of, I don't believe that guy will beat us in a series. It is not he's a stretch big in the sense that he wants to shoot and he's willing to shoot and he's improved as a shooter quite a bit since he came into the league. But that's really just illustrating what I'm saying. It's like there are no guys out there, unless you were willing to draft a guy in the second round that we talked about. Maxime Reynaud is this type of player. Now, defensively, I have some real concerns there. But if you're just talking about the shooting component, that was what he was going to be brought here to do. So maybe that's where I get mad at Daryl. It's like 50 ball in the G League is great, Chennai Broom, but I'm not seeing much else other than that.
Not at number 33 when that's the extension of the first round. That's the Wawa Wednesday big deal. When we talk about Naji and Saddiq, make sure you check out any Sizzly, any hot or iced coffee, and a hash brown for $5, 5 to 11 a.m. Limited time at Wawa, the big deal. I'm hungry. I could go for a Sizzly, but it's not the time right now because we're past the 5 to 11 limited time deadline. I guess I have to get that tomorrow. When we come back, we'll get into the other names that Kyle's teased about one person in New Orleans that we also had there, and maybe another name or two on this list for you. It's the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Wednesday. Stay with us.
Managing your money doesn't have to be a struggle this year. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool designed to make your life easier. It brings your entire financial life, budgeting, accounts and investments, net worth, and future planning together in one dashboard on your laptop or your phone. Start your new year on the right foot financially and get 50% off your Monarch subscription with code PHLY. Monarch is the go-to tool for a New Year's financial reset, reviewing spending over the holidays, setting fresh budgets, and getting ready for 2026. With automated weekly money recaps and tracking progress towards future financial goals, it's easier than ever to stay financially fit in the short and long term. Monarch helped users save $200 per month on average after joining. 8 out of 10 members feel more in control of their finances with Monarch. This year, achieve your financial goals for good. Monarch is the all-in-one tool that makes proactive money management simple all year long. Use code PHLY at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code PHLY.
All right, I was heading into work this morning because we had an early morning meeting, and I said, you know what? I forgot to grab something out of the house. No worries. Right to Wawa I go. It's right near my home, and it's an institution here in Philadelphia. So if you ever want to go from 5 to 11 a.m., you make sure you hit up Wawa for the great offer, the $5 deal where you can get any Sizzly, any size hot or iced coffee, and a hash brown, all for $5 at Wawa. So for me, I was starving. You know what I needed? I needed my Sizzly, sausage and cheese on a biscuit. Good to go. I'm good there. French vanilla coffee and the hash brown. Now I'm ready to go sit in this meeting and feel pretty good. I'm ready to discuss some things, all because I was able to go to the great place that is Wawa. Once again, available only in the morning from 5 to 11 a.m. If your morning calls for something sweet, then try the new caramel and chocolate craze flavors as well. No need to overthink breakfast. Just grab, go, and get on with your day. Gotta have a Wawa. Back here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Buy or sell, where are you at? We got some good names there in the chat from Jalen Smith. I saw Jay Huff's name mentioned in the chat as well. We saw him with Indiana earlier in the week, a couple of days ago. And with his ability to shoot the things, leading the league in blocks. Huh? Jay Huff. Who knew?
Don't tell Joel that because his eyes light up every time he gets that matchup.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to yours first. I'm sorry. Let's get to yours first. We have a New Orleans Pelicans player, but you have a New Orleans Pelicans player.
This is a New Orleans Pelicans podcast.
We're really feasting on the crappy Pelicans.
So this is another.
Weaves, send us your players.
This is another. You mentioned with Bey and Weaves, it's security blanket, so he's got to be there. This is another player who shot well 2 years ago.
Oh boy,
has not shot well at all since. I do think he's a better.
I know who you're about to say, and I know some people are going to be mad about it.
Well, is it in part because we just talked about it during the break? But anyway, behind the curtain.
We talked about him years ago, right?
We did talk about him years ago. But I think he's a significantly better point of attack defender than anyone we've been talking about.
Absolutely.
So even if the shot, Kyle talked about maybe a new environment, maybe a few more shot creators, maybe that 32% from three trickles up to 35, 36%. All of a sudden, I think it could be a real value piece. Now,
who's the player?
Herb Jones.
Okay.
We've talked about a lot in the past. Here's my concern. He signed a new contract extension. It's going to be like $20, $25 million the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. I think there's a real chance he's not worth that, especially if the shot doesn't come around. No. And I think there's a real chance you can get like 85% of Herb Jones' production for a lot less money.
X-Man says, don't mention that bum Herb Jones.
He's a really good defender, though, and the Sixers need some real point of attack defenders.
Absolutely. They have a lot
I acknowledge the reasons why you would say no right up.
So when you look at that, all right, they do have a lot of scoring. For what it is, they have a lot of scoring. So that defense is you're willing to pay for that defense with the scoring that you already have.
Yeah. I like the 5 years left on the contract. In fact, that it escalates to 25, I think.
I think I'm good on Herb. I do not believe in that guy as a shooter.
No,
I agree with you. He's a high. He's not quite the defender that he was a year or two ago.
He'd still
very,
probably
very
be the
good.
best on the team.
How much is it just simply? We talk about it a lot. Getting out of that environment. That place stinks.
It stinks.
All right, get him out of the environment.
Here's the thing.
We've never seen.
This is not a good shot creation environment. This is not a team that generates lots of open threes. So you're asking a guy who is a bad shooter to take pretty tightly contested shots, or they're going to compromise the spacing so badly because he's not making shots that Joel and Tyrese and VJ are facing an ocean of pressure. Like, that's the other problem with if you bring in any of these guys. I'm not trying to pick on just
I was going to say,
Jones.
we just talked about 30% three-point shooters.
Well, I don't like
Saddiq
Saddiq Bey as a player, so I didn't want to rain on Devon's parade.
You rain, please.
Saddiq I've never liked, and I've always thought was just like, he's interesting because nobody watches the goddamn Pistons at the time. So whatever. Anyway, moving on from that part. Herb Jones and any guy who's a questionable shooter, will say, I'll be generous and say questionable. I don't think this is a team that is routinely like, Maxey's not hitting the skip where it's like, oh boy, that guy's got 10 feet of space to load up. These are a lot of shots that are 1 to 2 feet of space, tightly contested, and it ends up in record scratch type moments. And so then it becomes, what can that guy do if he's got to put it on the deck? Which is why I do like someone like Naji a little bit, because he can at least dribble. I don't want him dribbling all the time, but I believe in him as an attacker somewhat. Herb is just like just please shoot the ball and defend and do nothing else for me. And I don't believe in the shot. I do. The defense is great, but I also don't want to pay him all that money in the future.
And like that to me,
that's really prohibitive.
You can talk,
me.
and again, I talk myself out of it, but we're talking about trading a slop. I think the reason you get Herb is the reason he's available is because of that contract. But the difference between Naji and Herb to me isn't so much, he can put it on the floor better. The difference is a contract. Like Naji's owed $18 million. Herb Jones is owed $75 million, something
I'm
like that.
good. I don't need to give him that kind of money.
I acknowledge all the reasons why not to, but there's people, X-Man in the chat, comparing him to Jonathan Simmons. He's a much better defender than Jonathan Simmons. He would legitimately be a very, very good fit on this team defensively.
And again,
he just can't shoot or
when
dribble.
I say it, I'm not talking about just because he changes in an environment and it stinks in New Orleans, he comes here and he's a better shooter.
Yeah.
I'm simply talking about the defense.
Yeah.
The defense being much better. You're in a playoff potential run here where you have no shot in New Orleans right now. They're just waiting to lose their next game and go ahead into the offseason where it ramps up. put another dollar in the jar, where he is now, though, playing for something. He's playing for something when he gets here, and that's where the defense would be important. The outside shot, you just hope that when he rises up to shoot, that it goes down.
Boy.
But everything else,
he also doesn't really rebound, which is on another team, fine, whatever. You ask the center and the power forward to do that. On this team, if you're acquiring a wing and they don't rebound, you're in a little bit of trouble because there's nobody.
He had a hot shooting season at the exact right time.
Oh, yes, he did. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, he did. All right, let's get to the big in New Orleans.
I was going to say, another Pelican.
Let's get to Joe Dumars. We send him our way, man. We all good. We're ready to go. The big man, Bree, Yves Missi.
And we know or at least there's a lot of reporting and a lot of smoke that he's available. So I get the question that you would throw out there is, do you think he's better than Bona long-term and right now? I think he's slightly better.
I think he's slightly better because we also saw it in that rookie year last season where he was really good. And now, first of all, they had the Jonas Valanciunas piece when he was in New Orleans with them. And then they bring in Derek Queen. Of course, they're going to play him. That was the guy that they drafted, this particular front office. So we saw it for a full season, Kyle, where that guy was really good, really high hopes from afar, and just watching basketball and seeing this player they got one. That's a decent name. That's a decent player, knows his role, knows what he can do out there on the floor. So comparing him to Bona, I say he's still better at this point, even though he's been a little bit relegated to limited minutes versus last season, where I believe I trust him a little bit more than I do Bona, and especially his hands are way better than the Bona.
So and he doesn't have great hands,
but they're better.
I think it's still a bit of an upgrade. Now, I will admit, I'm not exactly digging into the Pelicans' big man rotation these days. And so where he is at on the developmental curve, I can't tell you necessarily, but I agree with you. Like he came in a slightly better rebounder. He is a slightly better rebounder than Adem.
Yeah.
I think purely as a lob threat, he's more reliable because the hands are slightly better. Got a little more size than Adem as well. Whether that's worth anything at the deadline, I don't know. But let's just say in this scenario, they're making a trade where Drummond is going out in another deal. I think you could certainly justify like, hey, let's take a flyer on Missi. This is a new regime. They clearly don't like him or see the vision for him here. And so if you send Drummond out and then you have Missi and Bona and you just kind of let one of those guys rise to the top behind Joel, I'd be cool with that. But yeah, it's not my priority at the deadline. It's just more, if this guy's available, you might as well kick the tires and see if two guys that are running that front office who have historically been playing fast and loose with the trades are willing to let him go for almost nothing. Because
Derek, he's making 3.5 and 5.5 left on his rookie deal. What do you think of Yves Missi in this regard?
Yeah, I probably like him long-term better than Bona in terms of where he's at now. I agree. Having someone who could actually catch the ball when you throw it to him would be great. And quite frankly, just having two young bigs, watching them develop and seeing which one pans out. Like young bigs like that, the hit rate isn't always all that great. Give me two development projects and see which one pans out.
And then when we also talk about the hands with Bona, the other thing is sometimes when we discuss the foul trouble that he gets himself into, being overly aggressive at times that'll put him in a bad spot. Again, admittedly, like the guys, I haven't watched a ton. I've watched decent enough because of Queen and Fears and seeing what's going on in New Orleans. But especially watching him a season ago, he's not as, jumpy, if you will, in terms of all over the place. Like Bona is still figuring it out. Yves Missi seems a little bit more under control when he's out there on the floor, and you might be able to count on him in that spot.
And I also think they're different in that Adem is probably a more capable switch guy, where you want Yves as not a true drop defender, but a lot closer to a drop defender. Some of the upside with that is if you're playing that with Joel, there's some schematic consistency with how you're playing. And so whether that's good or bad is up to you. But yeah, so not a high priority. Maybe we should talk about some guys on other teams other than the Pelicans at some point.
We got some more on the other side. We'll do that. Final break. We'll get to the stretch from Rothman as well. Buy or sell, trade deadline in 2 weeks, and we wanted to get a head start because we only have 2 shows remaining at this time slot. So we wanted to talk about them. We've run out a few names. If you're just joining us and you missed out on some of the names, we'll run those back, plus a few more that we have, and the stretch from Rothman right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Do you really want Tyrese Maxey trying to defend some of the better front court players in the association? No, not really. That's not his strong suit. As talented as he is, you don't want him playing out of place. So it's not worth the risk, time, or the money for the professional basketball team. You need to keep your stars focused on what they do best, and the same goes for your business. You don't want your top people buried in operations, tedious, time-consuming, redundant activities that wear them down overall. You want them to keep your impact players fresh. And that's where Togo comes in, an integrated part of your team, taking the work off your starters' plates so they can focus on what really moves the business forward. Each Togo program includes dedicated staff, custom automations, and U.S.-based processes engineers who act as if they are your point guard overall. At Togo, turning your playbook into performance. You call the plays, we execute your way, and we advise along the journey. Visit harnesstogo.com. That's harnesstogo.com. Scale smarter, work faster, and stay focused on winning.
Philly sports fans, listen up. It's the season of gifting, and if you're looking for something truly unforgettable this year, or if you just forgot to get something nice for somebody for Christmas, because we are in January, I've got the perfect idea. Got to check out the incredible work from Philadelphia sports artist Jordan Spector at SpectorSportsArt.com. I own one of Jordan's pieces myself. You can see a beautiful piece here of Saquon Barkley from the Snow game. That one, you know, these aren't just posters you hang on the wall. They're museum-level artworks of the greatest moments and icons in Philly sports history. Now, Devon Givens holding it up is not coming along with what you're going to get. But the collection comes in prints, canvases, even athlete partner trading cards, including a piece of Brandon Graham's real game-worn jersey and one of those cards from that matchup in New Orleans against the Chiefs. If you got a diehard sports fan in your life or just want to treat yourself, it's the kind of gift they'll talk about forever. SpectorSportsArt.com. That's SpectorSportsArt.com. Grab something epic for the Philly sports fan in your life.
Back here on the PHLY Sixers podcast, we'll get to the stretch here from Rothman in just a second, but we had one more for sure player that we wanted to talk about here on the buy or sell conversation today. And Derek, I don't think you know about this one either. I saw his name in the chat though, Kyle. I did see it. Let's run with the last one, Bree. Yes, Giannis. A big man.
Yeah, just like Giannis. Day'Ron Sharpe.
Day'Ron Sharpe. As a backup big.
They're similar, right?
Hedfa. Saw that in there. We had that one. Like mine's Hedfa there because 8 points off the bench, 6 rebounds, 2.4 assists. Has a club option in 26-27 of $6.2 million for Day'Ron Sharpe. Hedfa loves the name. Derek, what do you think of the player as a backup big? As we just talked about Yves Missi, all of that. Day'Ron Sharpe.
No, I like Day'Ron a lot. I'm not 100% sure Brooklyn should sell him. Like, I feel like he is someone who's cheap enough.
That's their problem.
Oh. I feel like he's cheap enough, young enough, and productive enough that I would probably look to keep around. But yeah, I to Kyle's point, like I think he's a pretty good decision maker especially for the position, which we all watched last game. We could use a few more of those on this squad. And I think he competes and gives you energy. And yeah, I would absolutely be open to that. Pretty good rebounder for his size and position as well.
So something I think you're going to have to watch in the playoffs in particular is assuming that Nick Nurse ever decides to regularly stagger Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. Maybe I shouldn't hold my breath on that one.
He did in third quarter the other day.
A lot of what you're going to see in the playoffs is teams throwing two at Maxey and saying whoever the center is, go try and make a play because they'd be happy with a Dembona short role player, Andre Drummond short role player, and Day'Ron Sharpe is not perfect, but I think in that spot, I trust his hands, I trust his passing, and so if you end up now maybe you say Barlow could also play that type of role in the playoffs. You go small and you say, I'm going to put it in his hands in a 4-on-3. I believe he can put it on the deck, maybe get to the rim, and I think he'll make the not advanced passes, but he'll make the smart passes coming out of those looks.
He knows who he is.
Yeah. So I think Sharpe is in a similar mold that you would like him in that role. I probably trust him a little bit more to play actual 5 minutes compared to Barlow.
I think he's a better defensive rebounder than Barlow too.
Yeah.
Barlow's active on the offensive glass, but defensively, I think Daron holds his own better.
Yeah. So I could certainly see a case for getting him and on that contract. I think it's if he's available and he's available for cheap, I'd at least pick up the phone for sure.
I would absolutely look into Daron Sharpe. Putting the ball on the floor, I don't see many WTF moments like the other two with him. If he has to put the ball on the floor and make a decision, he's a scorer. He was a scorer in high school. He knows how to score. And with that, I think that, again, seeing him in Brooklyn and then still seeing him at the time and then seeing him in Brooklyn now, I just look at him where he is under control. He knows who he is, especially around the basket. He can get some good shots off, and he will grab rebounds. We talk way too often about Drummond is not a problem on the rebounding side of things, although there are times as good as he is. Like he had 15 last night, and we still complained about not rebounding enough and putting bodies on and allowed too many of those offensive rebounds. Daron Sharpe is not perfect. He is a backup center, but I think with his role being defined on this team, I think you would get some really, really good performances out of him at the backup spot. And the money is 6.2 for a team option next year. It's not bad at all for a backup big man like Daron Sharpe. So I would be in on him if they found a way to do that. Drummond at his $5 million plus a filler, and something around that could potentially get that
Drummond
done.
at a minimum, essentially.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, Drummond at a minimum. So Daron Sharpe, you got some fans here, man, of let's see if they maybe pick up a phone or let's see if he's even available, as the guys pointed out. Another team that's going nowhere, are they going to keep him around for yet another season? How long are they going to just keep him around that backup role behind Nick Claxton, which they don't trade him?
Dumb teams make dumb decisions sometimes.
How many point guards did they draft?
Well, it depends. What do you think about Wolf?
4. All right. Fine. They drafted 4 out of 5.
I will say, as we're getting close to the end here, one of the issues is that there are just not a lot of teams that are truly out of it this year. Even down to the 11th seed Bucks. Like the Bucks are trying to convince Giannis to stay, so they're not selling. So in the East, it's Charlotte, Brooklyn, Washington, Indiana. And the guys who I think are appealing on a lot of those teams are either not being moved because they're young or not being moved because they want them available for the next good team. And then the West, we talked about 800 Pelicans players. I don't think there's anybody on the Kings that fits a real need for the Sixers. Like Ellis is a guy that I like, but he doesn't really do anything for this team.
Well, you mentioned the one, and they didn't draft him.
Yeah. The Jazz, it's a lot of young guys, and then the top end and Markkanen, who's basically ungettable for this team. The Mavs, we talked about. And then the Grizzlies. So the Grizzlies' big existential question is, will they trade Ja? Jaren Jackson, I guess, is another potential name, but it would take a massive trade to get him. And I think he doesn't really – the rebounding issues are real. So even if there was a path to get him with like a Paul and every pick you got, I really like him, but I don't think this is the fit. I think it's another team with more of a rebounding thing. So that's that. But that's really it. Those are the sellers or potential sellers as far as I see it.
Yeah. Unless you're going like – real low end, like, you could get Nick Richards. You actually want Nick Richards?
Yeah.
When he was in Charlotte, now, no. Yeah.
The decision making with him always just felt like it was a second late.
Right.
Never a huge fan of Nick.
Yep. All right. That'll do it for the candidates. Now let's talk a little bit more about the games and does it make sense for them to make a move. Let's head into the stretch. Presented by Rothman. Rothman are good people here at Rothman Orthopedics. Make sure you visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more. All right, the stretch here coming up. Over the next, let's say, week and some, the trade deadline is on the 5th. Here's what they have. They have 6, 7, 9 games remaining, and Bree has 4 up on the screen right now. Thursday, we know about Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets coming into town. The Knicks struggling. They'll be in town on Saturday afternoon. Monday of next week starts off the back-to-back with the Charlotte Hornets and then the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee. After that, Kyle, they do go on their road trip, 5-game road trip out west. The trade deadline will be on the day that they play the Lakers.
We love a nice late 10 p.m. start time when we also have to cover the trade deadline all day. I know everyone cares as much about us as the team, but that's going to be a long day, fellas.
Yeah.
So a total of 9 games 8 games because the trade deadline is that ninth game that night. So 8 games. That's the stretch here, Derek, when you look at it from Houston, New York, next week's games, Charlotte on the road, and then 3 more home with Milwaukee, Sacramento, and New Orleans. You better win some of those games after losing this week. The stretch.
Yeah.
Does it make sense with the stretch here that we just talked about, including the 2 to start the road trip, for them to potentially make a deal if you see some wins in there?
I mean, I don't think if we're talking about a handful 5-7 game stretch, I don't think you shouldn't base your entire strategy on what you do over this time. Like, you can get sucked in by a little bit of recency bias. You're probably, no matter what happens, you're not going to be in a great playoff positioning, and you're not going to be out of it. So I think how you feel about this team up to this point should largely dictate what you're going to do. But this is a team that we're still, I don't know how many games all 3 of Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George have played. It's very few.
Not enough.
If you can get a couple of games here of more data, that's a significant portion of what you have to work with. I think they should probably, what we talked about to start this show, of being mild buyers, should probably be their approach almost no matter what happens here over these next 2 weeks until the trade deadline. But you would like to see them play good basketball so that it makes that case easier. Because quite frankly, you're going to have to convince a 10 billionaire to spend a little bit of money. And that's easier to do when you have won a bunch of games recently.
What I will say is that, do you know how you can send a message that the team should buy? Joel and PG, get your butts on the floor. Setting aside real injuries, I'm not going to chide anyone if we wake up tomorrow and Joel or Paul is really hurt, or Tyrese, or anybody for that matter, knock on wood that's not the case, then fine. But all the management stuff, think about if you're running the team in all the ways that entails. If you go into the trade deadline and you say, I have limited resources to use, not with the money stuff, but with picks and future assets and whatnot, and you really look at it and you say, we are a 500 or slightly above 500 team that, even in an open East, it's going to come down to, are we whole and healthy to just win a couple playoff series? And if those guys prove that thesis by the weeks into the deadline, missing half the games, I think the powers that be are going to say, I'm not investing further in this team. And I don't even think that's that's wrong to think or believe. It's look, if you guys can't get out there and show that you can be a group that is a serious team, we're not trading away the Clippers pick. We're not trading away swaps. We're not trading away future stuff. And so I think that's part of the challenge in this next couple weeks. Get Joel and Paul on the floor as many games as possible. See how they look. See if the flashes that we saw at the end of December, mid-December are real. And then you can make the most complete decision possible at or leading into the trade deadline this year.
2 back-to-backs in that stretch there, Kyle. Charlotte, as we mentioned, with Milwaukee next Monday and Tuesday. The following Monday and Tuesday, when they kick off the road trip, also a back-to-back with Los Angeles, the Clippers, and the Golden State Warriors. So some back-to-backs there where we know that at least one of them is not going to play in one of those games on that trip. We're headed into overtime, everybody. We thank you on the television side. Head on over to allphly.com for the remainder of the show. Back tomorrow for a pregame, 6:30. Sixers hosting Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets. So, to your point, 2 back-to-backs during this stretch here.
Yeah, so the challenge is play all the rest of them, because if it's not within Joel's control specifically that he's allowed to play in these back-to-backs, play in the rest of them. And that's not to say be irresponsible. It's not to play him through real issues, but keep him on the floor, because we've seen as he's gotten more regular time out there, forget about team results and team fluidity. He has just looked better. He's more mobile. The offensive stuff is working more. Like the numbers he's put up over the last month and a half, it's 28-8 on pretty good efficiency, and the record during that time when he's on the floor is pretty good. So that's the key to everything. It's very boring podcasting fodder to just say over and over again, they got to be on the floor, but they got to be on the floor. You can't evaluate them fairly otherwise.
That's The Stretch, presented by Rothman Orthopedics. Everybody, make sure you visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY. The Stretch for the Philadelphia 76ers. The one thing that could go against that, I think, Kyle, with it, to your point, is that they're right there bunched up with everybody else despite not having those guys on the floor. So if they do look at it and they look at it your way, which you're not wrong, they'll also look at the standings and say, yeah, we can still be in the 4th seed, though, because we're only a game and a half back of that, while all of these other teams are losing too. So while we may not have made up enough ground, we can make up a decent amount where we can maybe finish the year or going into the trade deadline. Because, again, look, they lose these games this week. It's very frustrating how they lost, including the Cleveland last week. Maybe they split over these next 2. But next week, there's a chance that you should be able to win. There's a case for each of those 4 games next week, including the tough road game that is now tough against Charlotte on that front end of the back-to-back. Charlotte, Milwaukee, New Orleans, and Sacramento all losing records. We've seen the Sixers against teams with losing records or shorthanded teams, and we've seen how it worked, but we continue to talk about how you should win those basketball games. So with it, they'll be right there in the mix if Embiid and or George don't play in some of those games. And that will probably also factor into what their decision would be when it gets to that point of making that deal or not making the deal, depending on what it is overall.
Put the pressure on Josh Harris, Joel.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. Go out there, drop 35 on the Rockets, beat the Knicks on Saturday, win 3 of 4 next week. Do your job, because when that happens, forget about what we think on this panel. The people, when they see the Sixers play well, are like, you can't let this deadline go by without giving Joel and Tyrese and these guys a chance. What has happened over the last week and a half or so is a lot of just like, oh, well, it's the same old Sixers. Why should we care? Why should we invest in them if they don't do anything at the deadline? Oh, well. And that's the team's fault. They have not played well enough. They have just come up short when it matters in some important home games here. Step up to the challenge, put the owners on notice, and let's see what happens at the deadline.
To your point on easy games on the schedule, I'm just going to bring up a tweet by Mike, MHC_76, that I know has been referenced on this show before, but is 100% true. If the Sixers played the 15-16 Sixers, it would be a 3-point game with 45 seconds left. If the Sixers played the 15-16 Warriors, it would be a 3-point game with 45 seconds left. There are no easy games.
Unbelievable. Yet there'll still be 4 or 5 games over 500 heading into the deadline, and we'll see if Joel or Paul George and they put pressure on ownership and front office to make a move because of the results. All right, that'll do it for us here on the show today. Back again tomorrow, 6:30 for Rockets Sixers. That's going to be an interesting one. That is going to be an interesting one. Knicks on Sunday, matinee, 3 o'clock game for the Sixers. And that's also important because if the meteorologists are right that we are seeing, it's going to be great for my guys to get out of the arena and home before everything starts to kick in.
I'm not sure I'm making it there. We'll see what the weather is bringing on Saturday. But the Houston game, real quick, big news today was Steven Adams is going to be out for a while for them. He's got I think it was a grade 3 ankle. So that's a full,
talk about rebound.
That's a full tear. So he's out for a long time. That's going to help the Sixers hopefully a lot with the rebounding battle. We'll see how the Rockets adjust to that. But it takes a little bit of the matchup fun away there, but I think it's good for the Sixers. Ultimately.
And the Rockets are off tonight, so they will be fresh, ready for the Sixers tomorrow when they get here. 7 games on the slate tonight, some fun basketball games. By the way, just real fast, because it was your preseason pick of a surprise team, mine last year with the Charlotte Hornets. They're on national television tonight, and they get a good broadcast crew tonight, too.
Let's not talk about my other surprise team
That's
from
why
this
I went
year.
with Charlotte.
I
went with Charlotte.
You know what? I will say.
I don't even remember who my other one was.
So
I do, because we agreed. It was San Antonio on the West.
Right, and I had
That's a
Bree
little
has
bit.
the receipts. I was
half
high on
cheating.
San Antonio coming into the year, but
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, everybody's picking San Antonio, so that's boring, and I didn't want to do that. I will say the Clippers are on quite a run.
They're on
so
a
we'll
run
see.
now. They turned
we'll
it
see where
around.
they end up if my surprise
They turned it
team
around.
surprises everyone by missing
Look
the
at Breeze
playoffs.
there. Look, she got it ready. Derek with the Miami Heat, and they are currently, they're right out. They're in the play-in, so they're right there. And the Spurs for me and Derek there. Kyle had the Clippers. I had the Raptors, who are
Yeah, I
right
didn't
there.
view the Spurs as a sleeper, but I certainly give you guys credit for being high on them. As
I got the
many people
Raptors
were.
right, at least for right now.
Yeah, they've been good. They've been better than most people expected, so that definitely fits the bill.
And your Charlotte Hornets, as you pointed out. Wow.
Mostly, I'm just glad
It's
Khan
just-
is hooping, man. Because
Man.
we took a lot of grief
Yeah,
on
we
this
did.
show.
He's at the top
for
of the
being
ladder
like, hey,
again.
he's a good basketball player, and he's probably going to be a good basketball player at the next level. And for some reason, that made a lot of people mad. But
I don't mean to pat ourselves on the back too much, but we watched a lot of college basketball last year,
yeah.
and I think
We had
our
plenty of
takes
time
were-
to. We didn't need to watch.
I think
no
our takes have held
rewatching
up
of the
pretty
Sixers
well.
games.
Let's get to the world famous. It's the roll call on a Wednesday, the only 3 p.m. show this week. So Kyle's got the honors on the roll call.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to Schoolboy,
that's the
who
only
was
thing.
not happy with some of our picks today in the
No.
chat, but did drop a few super chats.
Thank you.
And is a very loyal listener, watcher of the show. Thank you, Schoolboy, as always, for stopping through. Thank you to Eugene Ross,
What up, Gene?
Kyle Wright, Brian Knight, Val, Nona, Jess,
Ladies.
Hedpa, the Court Jester, Ken knows ball.
Ken, you do know
I
some
wonder if it's my
basketball.
dad.
He's the best.
He's a character.
He's the best.
Did he mention anything about referees? Because if not, it's
Well,
not.
yeah, then that's how you know it's an imposter. If there's no complaints about the
Did he have
officials.
thoughts on the officials from the NFL games this weekend with the two questionable
I don't
calls
think
on the wide receiver and the cornerback? The
He
interception?
thinks every official is
All right.
either on the take
Got
or
to
has
catch up
never,
with Mr.
yeah.
Newback on that one. Gotta
Thank you to
catch up.
Reek Gotti. Thank
What
you
up,
to
Reek?
Maple, Lost Sleep TV, JS, Theo, X-Man. You better love somebody. SB Cole. Thank
What up,
you to
SB?
Mom's grandchildren.
Hey, Mom.
What's up to Mom? Thank you to Jazz Graham, Philly Fan 258,
Jazzy.
Greeny Green, Vince Pellegrini, Markel Futz, Reardon, David Esposito,
David.
D Flyers. Thank you, everybody, for
What's up,
being
Rob
here
Mid?
today. Rob Mid hanging out. Marcus Blackstock always kicking around somewhere. Jay the Jungle always hanging out
What
somewhere.
up, Jay?
Thank you guys for being here. We don't do many of these 3 p.m.
No.
shows anymore. I'm very out of
Honestly,
practice
we don't do
at
very
this.
many shows.
I was going to say, these homestands, it's like, God, I haven't done this in feels like months, especially when you take a month off in December to go to Egypt. It's not how long I was gone. But anyway, thank you guys for being here on the way out. You know I tell you all the time, please hit the thumbs up button. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside when we see more likes on the video. But
like
it
button.
also is important to these guys. It's a thank you to Bree on the other side. And it helps us more than you could possibly know when all you do is take 2 seconds out of your day to hit the thumbs up to say, I had a good time here. I'm still here an hour plus into the show. Please help us out on that front. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And thank you, Provolone John, as well. Until next time, tomorrow, pregame, postgame for the Houston Rockets. Stay safe, take care of one another. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.